You walked into the room. The lights were on. The voices were loud. And still, no one's eyes found yours. Not one head turned. You felt it in your chest first. That small, cold drop. Like standing in a doorway, hands still on the frame, waiting for someone, anyone, to look up. No one did. You felt this before. Maybe tonight. Maybe at a table full of people who love you. Your fork frozen halfway to your mouth. Your own voice sounding far away in your ears. That ache has a name. And it started long before tonight. You speak, and halfway through the sentence your voice drops. Quieter, smaller. Because some part of you already braced for no one to be listening, so you flinch before the silence even arrives. You stare at a text you sent hours ago, the two gray ticks sitting there, and you don't feel anger. You feel a strange, familiar numbness, the kind that settles in your stomach when you're checking, quietly, if anyone would notice if you never wrote again. You remember the exact color of someone's shirt, the exact words they said, the exact pause before they said it. 5 years ago, while they look at you blankly when you bring it up, like you're describing a stranger's memory. You leave gatherings without goodbyes. You slip your coat on in the hallway, feel the cold metal of the door handle in your palm, and step outside into the quiet street, because some part of you already decided the goodbye wouldn't register anyway. You've sat across from someone you love, really love, mid-laugh, mid-conversation, and felt a cold thought slide through you like a draft under a door. Would they notice if I disappeared right now? Not because you want to disappear, just because you're not sure your presence ever left a mark to begin with. If this sounds like you, keep watching, because what I'm about to explain will make more sense than anything anyone has told you before. There's a name for this. Psychologists call it emotional invisibility. It's not about how many people are in the room with you. It's about whether your inner world has ever been truly witnessed. Here's the simple version. As a child, every person needs something called mirroring. That just means someone looks at you, really looks, eyes locked on your face, and reflects your feelings back so your small nervous system knows they're real. You cry, and someone kneels down, takes your face in their hands, and says, I see that you're sad. You're excited about something small, a bug on the windowsill, a drawing with too much orange in it, and someone gets excited with you, matching your volume, your energy, your joy. That mirroring teaches your body one simple fact, stored somewhere beneath language. I exist, and my existence matters to someone. But some people didn't get enough of that. Not because they weren't loved. Sometimes they were loved deeply, hugged, fed, tucked in. But love and attention are not the same texture. And when the mirroring runs thin, something quiet cracks, not loudly, not all at once. More like a hairline fracture in glass, invisible until the light hits it a certain way. You just slowly stop expecting to be seen. And you carry that expectation, or the absence of it, into every room you'll ever walk into for the rest of your life. But there's a reason this happens. And once you see the reason, you'll never be able to unsee it. Imagine you're 6 years old. You're standing in the kitchen doorway, sock feet cold against the tile, the smell of something frying drifting past you, steam fogging the window above the sink. There's noise, pots clinking, a television murmuring in the next room. Life happening loudly around you. You have something to say, something small, a drawing folded in your hand, the crayon still faintly on your fingers, a feeling that scared you at school today and hasn't left your chest since. You say it once, your voice thin against the clatter of the kitchen. No one turns around. You say it again, a little louder, standing on your toes now, as if height might help you be heard. Someone says, not now, okay? Not cruel, just distracted, just tired, eyes never leaving the stove. So you go quiet. You start sitting at the edge of rooms instead of the middle, the corner of the couch, the last chair at the table, close enough to the wall that you can feel it against your shoulder blade. You start reading the air in a house before anyone asks you to, the particular silence before an argument, the specific sigh that meant don't ask for anything right now. Maybe it wasn't the kitchen. Maybe it was a parent carrying something heavy of their own behind a closed bedroom door, stress, sadness, a marriage fraying quietly at its seams. Maybe there was another sibling who needed more, whose crying was louder, whose problems took up more air in the house. You weren't ignored out of cruelty. You were a small person in a house already full of big, loud things. And small people learn to take up less space when the space is already spoken for. So you adapted. You learned to tie your own shoes before anyone offered to help. You learned to swallow the second half of a sentence before it fully left your mouth. You learned to comfort yourself in the dark of your own room, blanket pulled to your chin, because waiting for someone to come started to feel worse than not waiting at all. You got good at being fine, so you adapted. You learned to tie your own shoes before anyone offered to help. You learned to swallow the second half of a sentence before it fully left your mouth. You learned to comfort yourself in the dark of your own room, blanket pulled to your chin, because waiting for someone to come started to feel worse than not waiting at all. You got good at being fine, so good that eventually even you stopped noticing you weren't. That child in the doorway, sock feet cold, drawing still in hand, didn't do anything wrong. That child adjusted to the room they were given. And you're still using that same survival code today, as an adult who doesn't need it anymore, but doesn't yet know how to set it down. Here's what this costs you now. You apologize before you speak. A small sorry, but that slips out even when you were invited into the conversation, even when the room was waiting for you. You stay in relationships that feel like white noise in the background of your own life, because some quiet part of you believes background noise is simply what you're owed. You cross finish lines, real ones people applaud for, and standing there, medal in hand, congratulations conversation still ringing in your ears, you feel a strange hollowness settle in your stomach. Because the applause was never the thing you were actually starving for. Being known was. You've mastered being easy, low maintenance, the friend who never asks for much, the partner who says, "I'm fine," while something in your chest quietly tightens. This is why relationships exhaust you, not because you ask for too much, but because you've trained yourself to ask for nothing, and then, in the dark, quietly resent the people who never noticed you needed something. This is why success doesn't taste like success. You build a life loud enough for strangers to see from a distance. But nobody ever saw the 6-year-old still standing in that doorway, drawing curling at the edges in her hand. You can sit in a room full of people who genuinely like you, their laughter warm, the lights soft, and still feel like you're watching it all through glass, 1,000 miles from every single one of them. But there's one cost most people never see, and it's the one that hurts the most. The deepest cost isn't loneliness, it's this. You stopped being witnessed by others so long ago that you slowly stopped witnessing yourself. You forgot how to notice your own feelings before quietly asking whether they're allowed. You check if a feeling is reasonable, turning it over in your hands like evidence before you let yourself actually have it. You've become a stranger to your own inner life because the first person who was supposed to study your face, the shift in your eyes, the small tremor in your voice when something hurt, was distracted, or tired, or fighting battles of their own behind a closed door. And so you learned to disappear from yourself before anyone else even had the chance to overlook you. You're not invisible because you're forgettable. You're invisible because somewhere, a long time ago, standing in a doorway with cold feet, you decided it was safer to go unseen than to be seen and dismissed. That was true once. It kept a small child safe. It is not true anymore. You're not broken. You're not too much, and you were never too little. You're just still wearing the coat you buttoned up in a cold house in a summer you never noticed had already arrived outside. Here's what nobody tells you. The moment you name this, really name it out loud, even just to yourself, something shifts. Not loudly, not overnight, but one day, you'll be mid-sentence, your voice already dropping out of habit, already starting to soften itself into nothing. And you'll catch it. You'll feel the old instinct rise, shrink, go quiet, don't take up the space, the way you always have, the way your body learned to, long before you had words for it. And for the first time, there will be a small gap, a breath-sized pause between the feeling and the reflex. That gap is new. That gap didn't used to exist. And in that gap, something in you gets to choose differently. You'll finish the sentence at full volume instead of trailing it into the floor. You'll let someone keep looking at you instead of looking away first, breaking the eye contact before they can. You'll say the true thing out loud instead of the easy, small, forgettable thing. Not because you fixed yourself. You were never broken to begin with, but because you finally saw the pattern clearly enough to no longer be quietly run by it. And slowly, so slowly you might not notice at first, the way you don't notice a room getting brighter until you look back at how dark it used to be. You'll start becoming the one person who was always supposed to see you. Yourself. You walked into the room, and maybe no one looked up, but you're here now, being seen by someone, even just for these few minutes, even just through a screen in a quiet room, who understands exactly what that doorway felt like. Cold tile, cold hand on the frame, waiting. What would it feel like to stop disappearing? Just once. If this video found you tonight, it wasn't an accident. Take a breath, and if you want more of this, you already know where to find it. You were never invisible. You just learned, a long time ago, standing in a doorway no one turned toward, to turn the lights off before anyone else could. It might be time to turn them back on.